You don't forget the sound of champagne glasses clinking like they're celebrating something sacred, and then realizing it's not for you. I walked into my parents' house wearing the dress I had made by hand, stitched with olive branches because Elliot said I reminded him of quiet resilience. Riley was under the chandelier in white. Spinning like this was just another fun little story for her to post online. They didn't flinch. Not my mother recording everything on her phone. Not my father raising his glass like this was just another family milestone. They knew what they were doing. But I wasn't ready to say it out loud yet. Not yet. This chapter opens with a quiet devastation. You can feel it in the air. The way no one looked surprised. The way my laughter was absent from the room. The way Riley smiled at me like she hadn't done anything wrong. It started 3 weeks earlier, back when everything still felt like mine. February in Santa Fe is cold, but there's a kind of peace in the air that wraps around your ribs and holds you gently. Elliot and I had built our world in those spaces, the ones where silence meant connection, not absence. We got engaged quietly. No posts, no fanfare. Just 2 mugs of cocoa and the desert sun setting behind the cliffs. Our wedding was set for May 20th, small, meaningful, nothing flashy. Just friends, students, colleagues, and the art gallery where we met. Gallo Gallery, tucked between adobe buildings and filled with imperfect beauty. I had sent the invites. Confirmed the quartet. Had my dress made by a former student, hand-stitched with olive branches. Because Elliot said I reminded him of quiet resilience. It was all coming together until Riley called. She said she had big news and insisted on a family dinner. I should have known. When I walked in, I immediately saw the banner. She said yes. Balloons. Cake. Champagne. Our mother recording everything on her phone. Dad opening more bottles like this was some grand romantic gesture. Riley stood in the center of it all, glowing in a white cocktail dress, holding hands with a man I barely knew. Everyone, she announced, Jasper and I are getting married. I froze. May 20th, she continued, beaming. Isn't that wild? Meant to be. I looked at her. Then at my parents. No one said a word. That's my wedding day, I finally said. Riley laughed. Yeah, I know. But you didn't trademark it, right? Ours is going to be an event. We're doing it at Lindo Resort. Jasper's uncle got us the ballroom. I waited for anyone, to speak up. To say this wasn't okay. My father just shrugged. It makes sense, Lena. Riley's wedding is going to have more people, more media coverage. My mother added, yours is more personal anyway. I felt like I was watching a car crash in slow motion and couldn't move. My heart was pounding. My throat dry. I'm not rescheduling, I said quietly. Riley's smile slipped. Why are you being so selfish? I stood there for another few seconds, taking it all in. The decorations. The cameras. The fact that no one saw a problem with this. Then I picked up my coat and left. My mother called after me. Think about the family, sweetheart. But I didn't look back. Not this time. I kept thinking about the desert. How it stretches out endlessly. How it swallows things whole without making a sound. That's what it felt like the moment I stepped outside that house. Like I'd been erased. Like my life had been overwritten before I even got to live it. Elliot met me at the car. He didn't ask questions. Just held me. And for once, I let myself fall apart. I told him everything. How they brushed me off. How Riley smiled like a victor. How my own mother said, it's just a venue. He nodded like he already knew this wound ran deeper than logistics. I think he did. He always saw me. Even when I couldn't see myself. Later that night, I drove to my parents' house again. Not to beg or plead, but to see if there was even a shred of decency left in them. I didn't get past the second sentence. You should have finalized your deposit earlier, Dad said without looking up from his newspaper. I did. She outbid me. Well, he replied, folding the paper. You can't be surprised. Riley's wedding is going to be much larger. More exposure. It's good for the family. The family. That word kept echoing like a curse. Mom didn't even fake concern. It's not worth all this drama, Lena. It's just a space. Don't let this ruin your relationship with your sister. I looked at her. She stole it. She's excited, she said, like that excused everything. Be the bigger person. I had heard that phrase too many times in my life. Be the bigger person when Riley got into trouble at school and I had to cover for her. Be the bigger person when she crashed my car at 19 and never paid me back. Be the bigger person when Mom said she wished both her daughters had turned out more like Riley. Always the bigger person. Always the shadow. I left without another word. That night, I deleted the Pinterest boards. Cancelled the florist. Zipped my dress away like sealing off a past life. Then I told Elliot, I don't want to do this anymore. He looked up. Do what? Pretend everything's fine. Pretend I'm okay being erased. He didn't speak right away. Just grabbed his keys. Come with me. I followed him without question, unsure if I was running away or finally waking up. We drove in silence through the desert hills until we reached a gate. A tall wrought iron gate half covered in ivy. A security camera clicked. The gate opened. Inside, a structure emerged. Low, long, made entirely of glass and stone. Carved from the land itself. This is unbelievable, I whispered. If you still want to get married on May 20th, he said, this place is yours. For the first time in weeks, I felt something shift. Not hope. Dignity. I stared at him. You designed this? He nodded. Built it. Own it. I blinked. What do you mean, own it? He parked beneath a curved overhang and turned off the engine. For a moment, the car went still, like the world had held its breath. I haven't been completely honest with you, he said. Not because I didn't trust you, but because I've seen what happens when money enters the room. My breath caught. I grew up differently, he continued. Quiet family. Old money. But I walked away from all of it. I hated the entitlement, the performative generosity, the way people clung to status instead of substance. So I left and started over under my own name, on my own terms. That gallery where we met, I donated that installation. He smiled just barely. I kept my profile low for a reason. I didn't want to be someone else's ticket or trophy. I just wanted someone who saw me. I didn't know what to say. I just stared at him, at the man I thought I knew who apparently owned one of the most stunning private properties I had ever seen in my life. He opened the door and stepped out, then came around and opened mine. I followed him through a curved glass walkway into the heart of the estate. Light sensors flickered on, illuminating a minimalist interior. Polished concrete floors, soft leather, warm oak shelves stacked with art books, and a central atrium with a reflecting pool lit from below. This is unbelievable, I whispered again. He stopped beside the atrium and turned to me. If you still want to get married on May 20th, Lena, this place is yours. All of it. For the wedding. For anything. My throat tightened. You're not doing this to one-up Riley, are you? No, he said gently. I'm doing this so no one can erase you again. I stood there in that silent echoing space and felt something shift. Not just gratitude. Not even love. Dignity. After all the bending, the shrinking, the swallowing of hurt, I was finally being offered something I didn't have to fight for. A place of my own. A future I could claim. I reached for his hand. Then let's make it unforgettable. He smiled. She had no idea what was coming. The message came at 10:42 p.m. I was in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering how I'd gone from bride-to-be to a side character in someone else's show. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. Jasper Blackwell just followed me on Instagram. That alone would have been weird. We'd barely spoken. I remembered him from a few family holidays, always talking over people, always with a drink in his hand, always more impressed with himself than anyone else was. But what followed made me sit up straight. DM from Jasper. You deserve better than what they did to you. Can we talk? I stared at the screen. Once. Twice. 3 times. Part of me thought it had to be a prank. Another part, a louder, more familiar part, knew exactly what this was. Riley's picture-perfect fantasy was starting to fray at the seams. Still, I didn't answer. I locked my phone and tried to go back to sleep, but the words kept echoing. Can we talk? The next morning, I showed Elliot the message. He didn't look surprised. Answer him, he said simply. What? Why? Because sometimes the cracks show you more than the surface ever could. So I did. I sent one word. Me. Why? His reply was almost immediate. Because I'm not blind. I see what's happening. And I'm starting to wonder if I'm just another prop in her story. We met the next afternoon at a quiet cafe near the old plaza. One of those places with uneven tile floors, soft jazz playing in the background, and baristas who wrote poetry on paper cups. I wore sunglasses and pulled my hoodie low. He showed up looking surprisingly normal. No flashy suit. No bravado. Just a man who looked like he hadn't slept in days. He sat down without saying hello and went straight to the point. I didn't know she stole your venue. I didn't respond. She told me you cancelled it. Said you were having budget issues and pushed your wedding to the fall. I snorted. Of course she did. That was just the start. The more we planned, the more I realized this whole thing isn't a wedding. It's a brand launch. She wants a Netflix-level production. Has a videographer from some reality show. A whole content calendar. A fake backstory about us meeting in Bali. I blinked. We met at a corporate retreat in Scottsdale. She said it wasn't magical enough for the narrative. I took a slow sip of coffee. She's marketing the marriage, he muttered. And I'm the product. That one landed. Not because I cared about Jasper, but because I understood. I had lived in Riley's shadow long enough to know what it felt like to be turned into a tool. A background player in her endless performance. He leaned in. I also found something else. Something I think you should see. He slid a flash drive across the table. I didn't touch it. She has a burner phone, he said, voice low. She hides it in her makeup drawer. I caught her texting someone at 1 a.m., giggling. When I asked, she called me paranoid. You think she's cheating? I don't know. But I know this. She's lying. And she's been planning this wedding like a campaign. And you're the narrative villain. I looked down at the flash drive. What's on it? Screenshots. Audio. Video. She admitted she wanted your date out of spite. Said, and I quote, she can cry later. She tried to bribe your gallery coordinator. Said she wanted to crush you. My hand shook slightly as I picked it up. Why are you giving this to me? Because I'm tired of being used. And maybe I want her to see what real consequences look like. He stood up, buttoned his jacket, and paused. Whatever you're planning. I want to help. I watched the fallout ripple outward. Invitations sealed in wax. Guest lists curated like battle plans. Press coverage. Magazine editors. A secret wedding that would eclipse hers. And on the day she thought was hers, I walked down the aisle. In silence. In strength. In truth. Elliot stepped up to give his toast. The lights dimmed. The screen lit up. Riley's voice, crystal clear. She'll cancel. She always does. She's soft. That space should go to someone who will actually use it. Gasps rippled. Then came the screenshots. Her texts to the coordinator offering extra compensation to bump my reservation. Her message to Jasper. This is my era. She can cry later. Murmurs of disbelief. Then came the final clip. A hidden video. Her laughing over dinner. Makeup half done. Wine glass in hand. If she really loved that guy, she'd step aside. He's just some artsy nobody. I'm the one with the real wedding. She's just background noise. When the lights came back on, no one spoke. Until the applause started. Not polite. Not reluctant. Thunderous. And that's when the doors slammed open. Riley stood at the back of the room. Still in her designer gown. Mascara streaked. She took 2 steps forward. Saw the faces. Heard the silence. And froze. Then came the final blow. Our mother stood up. Talia, she said, calling Riley by her middle name, the one only used when something was terribly wrong. Enough. Leave. Riley's face crumpled. What? You've embarrassed this family enough. This isn't your day. She didn't argue. She turned and walked out. The doors closed behind her. I exhaled slowly. It was done. But the echo would keep rippling. 3 days later, I received a letter. No return address. 1 sentence. This isn't over. You stole everything from me. Just wait. I folded the paper. Placed it in a drawer. Closed it without another thought. Because by then, Riley had already lost everything that mattered to her. And I had gained what she never understood. A life that didn't need her approval to mean something. The wind off the Arno was warm, like a hand brushing hair from my face. Elliot and I sat in a cafe tucked between 2 stone alleys in Florence. Our coffee cups were half empty. The sun catching in the edges of his glasses. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I had to brace myself for anything. There were no headlines waiting. No texts. No last-minute cancellations or demands to be the bigger person. Just quiet. Just us. We spent 10 days wandering the city like we had nothing to prove. Mornings in the cafe. Afternoons sketching doorways in forgotten courtyards. Evenings drinking wine in silence. The kind of silence that wasn't awkward. Just full. One night, as we watched the sunset from Piazzale Michelangelo, Elliot turned to me and said, "You look lighter." "I feel lighter," I replied. Like I put something down I didn't even know I was carrying. That was the thing about being erased for so long. You didn't always notice the weight until it was gone. When we returned to Santa Fe, there was a letter waiting from the dean of my department. They'd seen the wedding coverage. Heard from donors and alumni. They wanted to offer me a new role. Director of Arts and Equity Initiatives. With funding to start a mentorship program for underrepresented student artists. I said yes. And something in me opened. The program started small. 6 students. Some first-gen college kids. One told she wasn't commercial enough. Another bullied for drawing abstract instead of realism. I saw pieces of myself in each of them. The parts that had been told to shrink. To soften. To step aside. I told them what no one ever told me. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You just have to be clear. And they listened. Meanwhile, Riley disappeared. Her Instagram went blank. No more brand deals. No more curated brunch tables or wedding countdown reels. Her management dropped her. Her sponsors pulled out. Even the skincare brand she was developing issued a quiet termination notice. According to a neighbor, she moved back in with our parents. I never confirmed it. Didn't need to. Because for the first time in my life, her silence didn't feel like a threat. It felt like closure. Some nights I still think about the moment everything changed. Not when Riley stole the venue. Not when Elliot revealed Sage Estate. Not even when the video went live. It was the moment I said, "I'm done pretending." That's when everything began. That's when I stopped living for apologies I would never get. And started living for myself. Riley tried to take everything from me. But in the end, she gave me what she never meant to. A reason to rise. A reason to claim my name again. A reason to choose myself fully. Unapologetically. Permanently. And I'll never give that back.